Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you that you're here. A big thank you for this topic, for racism. Seems to be perhaps a little bit inconvenient or unfitting for a convention that is basically about cocktail culture and spirits and liquor and everything. But it isn't. When we look at the world today and our society, then we see tendencies in the Western culture to a right-winged and to populism and notions that are kind of reminding me, especially to times that I thought we have passed us for a long time. So that's why, and I'm happy that at least you are here. It would be great if we could reach with this, with our initiative, way more people to sensitize a little bit more about what's going on. You guys and us, we're all working in an industry that is about hospitality. So we mainly know what we're doing. We mainly know that our business is to be open-minded, to serve people and to take care of atmosphere and everything and be, well, with open hearts and minds and have no kind of intolerance in us. But obviously, as we can see as well with the elections that are going on in the last years in the Western culture, it seems to move a little bit to a right side, and that scares me, and that is actually the reason why I founded that. So just to tell you briefly before we start the talk, in 2015, when the whole refugee topic was kind of on its peak and everybody was talking about it, it was omnipresent, and that was in summer 2 years ago, and I was completely angry about what happened due to the fact that populism and things that I would never thought I would have in an open field and in the news and everything to hear that this can take place. I finished my school, my Abitur, so my high school finish was in 1994, and it felt like a million times that we were talking about the Third Reich and Nazis and everything, and it was kind of like boring already, you know? It was kind of like, hey, we understand, it will never happen again, especially as Germans, you know, you feel like this is clear. We're all open-minded, we all understood, and there's no racism that is not a topic anymore. And fast forward 20 years later, what did we have 2 years ago? People are talking openly about racism as well. So why are we here? I think it's about time to realize that we have a big influence on our customers and our guests as well, and that we are not only influential, but also for us, it's not a big topic. We're doing it anyways. I mean, we are open-minded, so let's position ourselves and let's speak it out loud that intolerance in no way is acceptable in a society. And there are no easy answers for complicated situations and questions. So if you ask me what we want to do, we want to position, we want to actually unify all of our industry, hotels, bars, restaurants, under this claim, hospitality against racism, and to speak to the society and for the society to say that, we're holding the flag high for hospitality and for living a tolerant life in any kind of aspect. And thank you. So giving over to Oliver, who's actually introducing our panel so that we can start to talk about that, and feel free as well to perhaps participate.
Yes, a warm welcome to all of you, as we are used to giving a warm welcome to our customers. Now, as the audience, I give a warm welcome to you. I'm glad to have marvelous speakers sitting next to me. May I introduce Moe Aljaff? May I introduce Karim Fadel and Noureddine Elmoussaoui. Well, I trained it. I trained it before, and it's Elmoussaoui. I'm awfully sorry. We also have another speaker that has an overlapping panel somewhere else, might show up later. But yes, welcome to you. Nuri, maybe as you are in Munich and you are closer to me now, maybe we start this whole discussion off. You were born in, to your backgrounds now, you were born in Morocco, I think, but then moved to Germany quite early. What age was it when you came to Germany?
So, hello, everybody. My name is Noureddine Elmoussaoui. I work at the Schumannsbahn Munich. Good to see you guys. I was born in Morocco, in the north of Morocco, in the Berber region, and I went with my parents in the age of 7 to Frankfurt. Yeah.
So when you came to Germany, age of 7, racism probably was not a problem for you back then. But of course, growing older, and especially then being in Munich, and in Frankfurt in Germany, you were different, looking different. I don't know how your situation was when you were in school, in elementary school. Was there many immigrants or many children with an immigrational background?
I mean, if you have topics like that, you always talk about the bad experience, but I have to say, in my young age, I always making very good experience with not even German people, like the society, because I was raised up with people from all over the country, like people from Eritrea, from Asia, German people. And actually, I was doing bad experience the last 3 or 4 years, what you're talking about. Like, at the moment, we're getting, like, the people getting more on the right side, and something is happening, and but my life in Frankfurt was, like, without any reason, pretty easy.
Okay.
Like, very welcome. They integrate me very good into the society, even my parents. My parents used to work their whole life at the airport, so it was pretty tough. I have 4 other brothers and sisters. So we lived, but we lived a like, very easy and welcome life in Germany. Everybody was good to us.
Okay, cool.
But I have to say I'm 28 now, and the last 4 years I see like there is something changing. And I just want to give you a very short story. I went the first time to the States, to Vegas, and they're getting me in the control. They was like, okay, sir, can you go with us? And then they asked me, like, did you went the last years to Pakistan? I'm like, no. Did you went to Afghanistan? I'm like, no. Did you went to Iraq? No. And was like, hell no, why I should go there? And they're like, what is your profession? I'm a bartender. Ah, you're a bartender. So welcome to the US States. And I'm like, so I see there's a different topic on like how people visualize you or your name, and it starts now. So I'm a bit disappointed, but also want to start maybe a journey where we go back to being one world or something like that.
So your off-work life kind of was not that much of racism. So it started the last 4 years when you were off work. But now speaking of hospitality or gastronomy against racism, what experience did you make while being at work? Did you, and this has of course always 2 aspects. The first aspect is your colleagues. Second aspect is your clients, your customers. Here we have...
our last speaker is coming as well.
The last speaker.
Welcome, Ian Burrell as well. Cheers, Ian. Thanks to have you.
Mr. Ian Burrell, thank you very much.
Sorry I'm late, I was just doing a seminar and they scheduled me to do that and this at the same time.
So did you make any bad experiences at work?
I work for now 1 year in Schumanns, and in Schumanns you have this classic bar jacket with your name. And I just make the experience that people a little bit, not judge me, but they have always this question like, where are you coming from? Mm-hmm. And it's always like they make a point on it. It doesn't have to be a bad point, mm-hmm. But I don't understand this question sometimes, like, where are you coming from? And I'm like, hey, I come from Germany. Ha, Germany, come on. And I'm like, what is the point? Like, my name doesn't give me like a citizen place where I live, because I raised up here, I lived in Germany, I study in Germany, I work in Germany, so please don't judge me on my name. And maybe it's not a racism thing, but you see people like actual on your name, like pointing on you. And sometimes I have other jackets in Schumanns, like from other colleagues, Giovanni or Costa, and even that happens, like, Costa, you don't look like Costa. Like, where are you coming from? So I see like people pointing on names, and maybe they want to place you somewhere, and this is, I don't like that.
Do you think that they have like problems seeing you quite obviously as a profession behind your bar? You are a professional bartender, you do a marvelous job in Schumann's now. Good for Munich that you're working there now. But do you think that there is a problem seeing you? You are quite obviously not German, but you are highly respected behind the bar as a bartender. Do you think that there is something that they might not fit in or that might not fit in their world? As individual, yes.
I mean, the most guests, they don't know about bartending or hospitality. They're always surprised if you have a professional. Even still in Germany, we're in good times now. It's growing, but you airing a drink, and the people are like, wow, what he's doing? Oh my God. The only thing what bothers me is like that the people still ask you like, is it your job, or do you make something beside of that? And then like, where are you coming from? I'm originally from Morocco, but I lived in Germany. And do you study? Do you do something else? No, I work just 2 months. 10 years in this business, and then people like asking this question, and this is still surprising me, like people thinking this is like just a side job that maybe immigrants just do to be there, and so this.
But you did study too. I mean, your parents are quite conservative, and did study too, and that was the reason I think why they came to Germany too, right?
My father used to be in Morocco, like a notar. What is a notar?
Notary.
Yeah, notary guy, and he was very looking forward that we all study. My brother is an architect, my sister is in the IT business, my other brother is a lawyer, and my other sister, she studied dental medicine. And I used to study law because my father was like, you're gonna be a lawyer. And afterwards I studied politics, and after I was getting in the hospitality business and don't finish my study, even the Moroccan society or the Muslim society we lived in our area in Frankfurt, they was very disappointed on that. They thought I'm throwing my life away, like you're going to be a bartender, you're throwing your life away. And even my parents getting sad, but at the position where I'm now and in Schumann's, my parents understand it a little bit better because I'm coming also from a conservative Muslim background. But still, we have family members. For them, it's like this guy goes the wrong way, and so this is the other part of racism. Maybe you should take a look on, like people judge you because you're making decisions for your life.
Okay. So yes, please.
Just briefly, I have one question to all of you in a way. There's something that Phum told me. He said that was really interesting to me. He said that he's always a little bit pissed about the situation when he's behind a bar and he got a customer and someone comes up and says, like, after a few talks, says like, hey, there he is, hi Phum. I'm just talking about you.
So we got more surprise boxes coming up every now and then.
No, that's the situation that you told me about. When people are talking to you and you're behind the bar and you're talking to them like 1-2 sentences, they're like, hey, you're talking really good German. Where are you coming from? So, and just before you answer, the thing is, when he told me that, I thought like, okay, sometimes, I mean, I think I'm pretty open-minded, but I'm curious as well. If I would meet Nouri the first time, or we would talk like behind the bar, I think at some point I would ask him where are your origins, where you come from, just because I'm curious. But it just made me realize that you could be offended by a question like that. Perhaps it's the tone, perhaps it's the way you ask, but I thought it was really interesting when you said you're still pissed about this kind of thing, that there is this burden, this step that something is looking like you can't talk perfect German. So how is it for you guys? Is that something that you feel?
I just want to say one thing. That's different about the States. I went to New York in January and I had a Uber driver, and I was asking him, where are you coming from? Obviously he was coming from Asia or something. And he's like, yeah, I live in New York, I'm from New York. I'm like, no, but where are you coming from originally? He was like, hey, brother, I come from New York. I'm an American citizen, what you want from me? So this was giving me the thinking, like it's probably a European thing or German thing, because in the States you have your origins or something, but the people like feel that's their home and that's they are sitting. And he was very pissed off, and he was like, my family comes from Bangladesh, but I'm an American citizen. And this was giving me a little bit of thinking about, and that's why I sometimes also pissed on that.
Yeah.
Phum, your point, please.
Yeah, being pissed is maybe a bigger of a word because, of course, obviously I'm not looking German, even if I was born here, raised here, and grew up here. I think in German and not in English or in different languages. So, of course, if people come into the bar and, of course, they're just surprised sometimes, and it's always about the tone they're thinking and about how do they mean it, because you can see it, you feel that. It's like, oh, okay, I'm surprised you're speaking so good German, but actually you're Asian, why is this is something that actually I don't like. But a little more funny about it is more maybe the second question, because when they say, you speak so good great German, they say, thank you very much, you too. This is the thing. And they say, so where are you from? They say, I'm sorry, I'm from Germany. No, I mean, actually, like where you come from. Oh, you mean Nordrhein-Westfalen, the district in the southwest of Germany. I say, no, I mean, oh, you mean particularly. So I think, yeah, I'm from Bonn, the old capital city of Germany. And they say, no, oh, you mean ethnically. And this is something that actually is, especially in gastronomy, a thing. You can't be offended of everything, but you need to take the line. And the wording makes a lot of that happening, especially from the hospitality side. You can't ask the customer stuff like, your English is good, how did you learn it, something like that. But if you want to be interested in the background, the cultural background of a person, then you should take a little more care and put a lot more sense into how you ask for that. Just not to be only politically correct, just to don't put any notion into that or something like that. I hope that answered that.
No, I mean, this is coming from a slightly different perspective, being someone who works in the UK predominantly, as well as the rest of the world. But situation happened on the reverse for me behind my bar. So behind the bar, and the whole of the bar area, it wasn't a big bar area in my old restaurant I used to have. It's about 30 people having a party inside there. And this lady walked in, and the lady was Caribbean. And she looked around, and she looked at me, and she said, I thought this was a Caribbean restaurant. And I said, it is. Caribbean restaurant, cottons, we had 350 rums behind the bar. Yeah, it was Caribbean restaurant. She looked around, and everyone in the bar was white. And she said, I thought I'd see some Caribbean people inside here. I was like, what about me? What about me? I didn't tell her I owned the bar. I just said, yeah, what about me? She said, no, you know what I mean. I thought I'd see some Jamaicans. What she didn't know, the party was a Jamaican party. The motto in Jamaica is out of many, one people. My great-great-great-grandmother was Chinese Jamaican. Yeah, so I have a little bit of Chinese to me, a little bit, as such. But in Jamaica, we come in different colors and different shapes and different sizes and different aggressions as well. But everyone in that bar was Jamaican. It's just that they were white Jamaican. But what I'm trying to allude to is some people, it's about the tone, as you said, and the line of question, how you question people. If you come with it in a more inquisitive way, I think it's more when someone says to you, where you from, they really mean, where is your ethnicity from? Where is your family from? Because if they have sense, they know that Germans can come in all different colors, all different shapes and sizes, same as the English, same as the Jamaicans. But I think what they are alluding to is, where is your ethnicity from? So people say to me, where's your parents from? Where's your ethnicity? I'm saying, yeah, Jamaica, because we're proud I've been a Jamaican. But at the end of the day, I'm still British. Born in Britain, have a British passport, I have a Jamaican passport, still born in Britain. So it's the line, that's how they say it. I fully agree with you, it's how they say it.
Ian, another question to you, Ian, because Brexit was a big topic, of course. So I'm sorry, no, don't do the political discussion now. We don't do the political discussion now. But there was, what we see in television is definitely something different that you might experience in the UK itself, and especially in bars. Did you get any impact, or did bar business get any impact by Brexit? Do you realize a change of minds? Please tell us about the story.
There was a slight mindset at the start, only because of uncertainty. I mean, the stories that were being branded around UK was, oh, if you're not born in the UK with a British passport, you're getting kicked out. If you were French, you're getting kicked out. If you're Spanish, you're getting kicked out. If you were from Czech Republic, you're getting kicked out. Italy, you're getting kicked out. Now, of owning a bar, in the 10 years I owned it before I sold it, I can honestly say about 1% of the people that came through the door and asked for a job were white English. Yeah, 1%. The other 99% were of color, were from Eastern Europe, were from Italy, Spain, France. They weren't English as an English white. So, and I suspect, and I haven't spoken to too many other owners, I suspect a lot of people within our industry in the UK are not actually British born. Yeah, they've come from other countries and worked, and that's why the industry is so multicultural, and it's a great industry. But if they have uncertainty about what's going to happen once Brexit happens, then there's going to be uncertainty within our industry. So there was definitely a little bit of uncertainty there, and it still is, because our politicians sometimes have no idea what's going on in the real world. So we still don't know where we stand when it comes to the whole Brexit thing.
Thank you. Well, Mo, to you, you have quite a journey behind you. So you are now working in Spain, is that right?
Yeah.
But your origins definitely are not in Spain. What was your way to Spain then?
I mean, my family
By the way,
moved to-
I've heard this story because I judged him in the Legacy finals.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, I mean, my family moved to Sweden when I was at a very young age. They moved there as refugees. But speaking about the topic of where you're from, I've always thought that that's a very, very funny question because I've never really felt a big sense of belonging to any culture or country because I never really was close to my own culture. I grew up in a very Swedish society. And I never really got that close to the Middle Eastern kind of Muslim and so culture. We were always doing something else, me and my brother. And at a very early age of 18, I left Sweden, and I never moved back. And I lived in Holland, I lived in India, I lived in Thailand, in Norway, and now I live in Spain. And so when people ask me where I'm from right now, it's very funny to try to describe that, you know, because you go like, I don't really feel Swedish.
Yeah.
I don't really feel Iraqi because it's just, I feel I've just been traveling to so many different places. But a thing that we do, for example, because we always like to find out a lot about the people, the guests that come to our bar that, you know, try to build a relation, try to create regulars. And so, and I found it that it's so much easier to, for example, we start approaching them. If we're gonna go into that, we start approaching them by asking them if they're visiting, if they're living here, and to ask how many years have you guys lived there long? Because in Barcelona right now you have so many people moving there from all over the world. And then you have people that have been living there for 15, 20 years that are from the UK or from Sweden or wherever. And just simply rephrasing that to ask, oh, have you guys lived here long or not, will tell you more than anything without going into this where you're from thing.
Right.
You know.
And this makes sense because you get your cultural influences from everywhere you are, and this is what makes you. This is you are the result of all the influences that you get, and the more influences you get, the more interesting as a person you might get. So this is a point that people should start think of in general, in my eyes. Karim, so you are from Berlin, as far as, and in the rum business now, in the cane business at least, which you might like. Please tell us a little about your past, growing up in Berlin, because your parents both. So you were born in Berlin.
Yeah.
You were born in Berlin.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, welcome to my city actually. Thanks Dennis Wolf and Phum for this beautiful, not only the speak, but also this project that they started with Hospitality Against Racism. I think that's something that we really should give kudos for. Proud of you, man.
Necessary. It is, obviously.
Yes, like Oliver mentioned, I'm born and raised in Berlin. My father is Nubian, which nobody knows. It's actually a tribe in south of Egypt. He's Muslim. My mother's German-born. Born and raised, and I have to say, pretty same as Nuri told, because when I grew up in West Berlin, we always had this kind of a very diverse bubble already with a lot of American influence due to the soldiers which have been based in southwest Berlin where I grew up, so I couldn't complain about my school about racist background within Berlin totally. I had some bad experiences, but that was not Berlin basically, and that was also a pretty young age then.
Okay.
Would you, just one thing, I think we can all agree that for us, working especially behind the bar, never worked in a kitchen, and I don't know if it is in other aspects of hospitality business, but especially behind the bar, I think we can all agree that it's easy for us to work everywhere in the world and to find home, well, in our business, right? It is open-minded and everything. But as I said in the beginning, what you were just agreeing to, that in the last years, there's a little change of tone that we are realizing. Don't you think that we have a big responsibility as well to, when we are behind bars or when we are traveling around and, well, giving workshops or whatever to topics that we are working on, that is our daily job, to put this aspect inside as well, to give this kind of notion to people, especially to young people, that they perhaps are sensitive about the responsibility they have as working in the hospitality business. Because in my eyes, and that was one of the notions for this initiative, is that we try to give the message out to young people to say, like, you have contact with so many people that are in your bars or whatever that you can influence. And as we know, we are the host in an evening when we are behind the bar. So you have kind of a responsibility as well. You are sensing some kind of talk or perhaps a direction. So is there something that you agree on that we should do and that we could perhaps intensify? And do you feel that there's a little bit changing in the last 2-3 years?
There's
not only Germany?
There's definitely the politics around the world has definitely been a massive shift towards the right, and that's due to a lot of things, as we know, that's happening, especially in the West as well. And people's interpretations of what the other side is like, as in they say, oh, those guys coming from over here, and we see that everywhere, in America, in England, here in Germany. So there has been a shift towards there. Now, in answer to your question about should we be more vocal in the bar, we have to be quite careful of how we do that. Only because a lot of people come to our bars, to our restaurants, to get away from troubles. I mean, I've just been on stage talking about the whole tiki thing back in the 1930s, it was about forgetting about prohibition, forgetting about the Big Bang, the Wall Street crash, and the Depression, and you came there to escape from the world. Now, if we decide to try to use that as a platform, as a forum to then start to impose our beliefs onto the customer, we might upset a few customers and they'll say, right, we're not coming in here again. I think we can do it in a subtle way if it arises inside the bar, if something comes up, if a conversation piece comes up. I was always told, try not to get involved in politics, sport, or someone's affairs when you're behind the bar. I made that first mistake straight away when a guy came in with his, I thought was his wife, and I said, oh, it's good to see you again. He'd already told the lady he'd never been there before, because it was his mistress, not his wife as such. So, yeah, we have to be quite delicate of how we approach something like that. It's a great idea in theory, but we have to be quite delicate of how we approach it with consumers that come into the bar, because sometimes they just want to come in for an amazing cocktail, not to instill our views and our beliefs onto them.
I think it's an interesting point. I had customers, I was working in a befriended bar, wanting, as a host and welcoming guests, and I had 3 customers, or wannabe customers, entering the place with, there is a brand that's quite obvious for Nazis or for like modern Nazis, and they wanted to enter the place, and I told them that we do not wish them to be here, because I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to clearly explain them that this is not going to happen in here. I do not want to have Nazis in my place and then letting them spread the word that Nazis are welcome in my place. Never would happen. And this is why I would love to have those gastronomy or hospitality against racism, Gastronomie gegen Rassismus badges out on every of your bars as a sign and telling other people, no, this is against racism. If you are different-minded, you are not welcome here. And because this is such an important aspect on our job, being friendly to people that are friendly to others.
So I just want to say quickly, what you just said there, I never thought about it, but that is the perfect answer. And that answers your question. If we had more of those signs, print more of those, because I'm seeing it for the first time. I know I'm not from Germany, but seeing it we had more of those, and that was on the bar, just like the rainbow flag on the bar, showing at the end of the day we welcome everybody. That's the way to actually say to people and give your views without actually imposing on their evening. You've actually left a subliminal message as they walk into the door. You're against racism in gastronomy.
I totally agree on that. I think just before you said, the thing is, I don't want to be misunderstood. It's not about going outside and preaching or anything like that. It's definitely about being subtle. But what I mean is, when you're behind a bar, you sense something. As you know, there's one person you can sense that wants to be left alone, read a book perhaps or whatever, and then through the atmosphere and the dynamics in a bar, sometimes a whole great atmosphere is created and people are coming together. So you're bringing them together. And I have a lot of experience. I experienced a lot of situations in which you could change a notion or change a way of a communication just to, being conscious about what happens and to just put a sentence in or to take some negativity out or whatever. So this is what I mean for the responsibility as being professional in social communications and skills that we have. And that's the thing. And the second thing, what you said, I think I'm actually expecting that from all of you and all of us as being in our generation in charge, that we are actually taking, stand up, taking a position and be civil courage to step in when bullshit like that happens or when people are just getting into a bad behavior.
I just wanted to stick on that, what you're asking for, if we need to take responsibility of that. And I totally understand what you say, but I see it a little differently. I see it, of course, we need to take responsible for that. And putting that sign on your door, it just not tells the people what you're against. It's just open up where's the line and what you're standing for. Especially we're traveling into so many different countries, to so many different cities, especially multicultural, with a multicultural background. A lot of people, this is actually what we're standing for in our community, the community of hospitality and the bartending itself. So if people are asking me what actually makes the sense or what is the DNA of a city like Berlin because it's so multicultural, I say there is actually no recipe for Berlin, because since the starting of the time of Berlin, like New York City as well, the own identity of the city comes with different backgrounds, with multicultural backgrounds together. And this is something, nothing to hide, or we need to put a lot more respect in front of our customers, because when customers come into my bar, I want them to know that there's an Asian dude from Germany with a Russian guy who grew up in China and a Latin American guy who actually lived most of the time in northern Scotland, and we're actually not speaking the same language, but the only things that we're doing, the same language that we have, is that sign on the door. And I just want to recommend the audience, it's not the sign for being against something. It's just to open the door for everybody who's on the same wave.
Yes.
I also want to say something on the reverse side, because I see a lot of people like, we're separating people. Like you have like people from the right flag and they're like assholes. We don't want to have something. But I think from a Muslim perspective, they say always be good to your neighbors, be good to everybody, and educate people, and maybe you get the people back to the good side. And I think what is happening in the world at the moment is like we're separating people. People have a view, maybe a right view. They say, I vote for AfD. And then it's like just you an asshole. But actually maybe we have to educate these people and bring them back like, hey, being a good role model. Because I work at Schumann's, I think I work with over 40 people, colleagues from all over the world, different religions, and my guests too. And sometimes you hear something like about refugees or something, but you can't, just from it's my opinion, you can't just judge someone on his opinion. Maybe you can change his mind as being a good role model. Because this was my parents always like try to tell me like, hey, be good to your neighbors, be good to your colleagues, be good to people, and maybe you're going to be a good role model to bring people who has maybe a wrong view back to the side, and not like this 13% we have in Germany with the AfD, for example, saying they're coming all from Sachsen, they're coming from the east part of Germany, like these people, please come. Maybe we have to bring these people back to us and be a community. So
Totally agree. Just one thing.
Yeah, I kind of, as we're speaking about that point, I really, really agree. I think that a major part of why in the last years we've seen maybe a bit more right-sided, a bit more racism coming up is because people has just been like shunning away the problem. Just like, oh, you're racist, go away, your racist, go away. Instead of just like, communicate about it. Oh, okay, why is it that you believe these things? What led you to these thoughts, and talk about it. I think it's a very interesting thing, because a friend of mine works as a psychologist in Amsterdam, and she told me about this thing where the people that had drug problems, for example, that were heroin junkies, instead of arresting them and throwing them in right away, they would create a safe space for them to come there, and they could use their drugs, but they would have to be in these offices and talk with these kind of therapists about why they went into it, and to talk it out and understand why that problem is there, rather than just like shunning away the problem. Because it's kind of how we evolve or go to the next step. We need to figure out why this is happening. Right? So
Definitely.
yeah.
I did also experience on that. I had a classmate, his name was Steven, he was German, and his family was a member of the Right Party. And we went to a very rough school that's in Germany, everybody's Hauptschule, but I did Abitur, keine Sorge. Like a very rough school, and a lot of people from all over the country, like a lot of immigrants. And he was one of the few Germans in this place, so he was a, yes, you have like 20 people, 10 from Turkey, 9 from Morocco, and this one German. And he had this problem because he was very close to us. This classmates, we were like family, but he's coming every day home to this family which says these people are the wrong people. And he was like very confused, and at the end of the day I still have contact with him. He was going also to the good side, like he's not, he doesn't get the views or this experience of his parents because he did a good experience with people from other countries. So that's actually the point to bringing people back.
Yeah, that was the thing. Education is key. I mean, that's what we can all agree on. So definitely, in a subtle way, I think there's a small part that we could do as well, and to live, you not hear me? That we can live and showcase how it is to be in hospitality, and that this is not the answer to point out to someone's color, gender, religion, or whatever background he has, but that it's about, educate and to live, hit them with love, right? To just embrace them and try to educate them in the best way possible. That's the thing.
So I think so, yes, because it's not, I mean, racism is one thing, and it's one very important, one big part to talk about, but once you changed, maybe you have changed your point of view on racism, I think it's, from then on, it's an easy step to say, okay, it's religion, what is religion? This doesn't make a difference. Sexual, like, interests, whatever. It's about diversity. This whole topic is about diversity, and for us as hospitality business should be quite obvious and should be clear that there is a lot of diversity going on, but we have to cope with it and we have to handle with it and welcome those people. Just because they think diverse from us, they're not bad people. And I think this is a nice thing that we should, it's like this underline of racism is against diversity.
I'm also with what Ian says, like you have to be very careful with your guests, because the thing is, the magic of a bartender is actually you listen to your guests without saying something they talk about. And I had at Schumann's a couple of weeks ago also 2 guests that was talking about refugees and the AFD, and we have a big problem with the refugees. They come in all over, and I was, from my heart, I would love to tell them something, but on the other side, they're still your guests, and like maybe from listening, you're getting experience, maybe you can change in the way of hospitality, being a good bartender, their mind. Like just, and I wouldn't do any discussion at the bar with the guests. No. You have be careful, at least if you have experience like you, like someone comes inside with a sign or something. Yes, that's a different thing, but we have to be careful with this discussions on politics with guests, because this is not the thing why people come to us, and
we as Gastronomy Against Racism, we often are being asked, so okay, but what can I do for you? How can I support you? How can we support you? And I think that there is different ways of supporting Gastronomy Against Racism. The first thing has to happen in your mind, to change your mind, to change other people's minds, of course, educate other people's. Another way, a very nice way, is a way that the German Bartenders Union just did. And therefore, I would love to give a warm welcome to Ulf Neuhaus, who is head of German Bartenders Union, and Mohammed Nazal. And what they did is, I think we can. Did you bring it? Did we bring it?
Here. Just come on stage. I want to say a big thank you after I find my microphone receiver again. Second time now. Yeah. So as you know, these kind of things. When you do this a private time, behind your normal job, behind family and everything, it is always way too short time, way too less effort. You always feel bad because you can't actually do what you want to do, or you can't achieve what you want to achieve. And we're also always very, depending on support and donations from all sides. So please give a big hand to the DBU, the Deutsche Barkeeper-Union, who just supported us. And they have a big donation for us. I'm very thankful for that. We are trying to get our structure better to promote this idea, to educate people, and to perhaps be able to, well, change something in our culture. So thank you very much.
Alles Gute wünsche ich.
Yeah. Thanks. Hamoudi. Thank you. Yeah.
Gerne.
Ta-da!
So I think we time
Bitte.
has run up. It's 2 more minutes. If you want to do something, please come to our stand. Where is it in?
Hall 1, Halle 1, A14, A14. We have a sharing box in there where you can definitely give us a message as well, as a small video or a picture.
We do
posted.
clips there that can be posted.
Of course, yeah. Well, if Ole is not, dragging us off the stage and there's something you want to ask or question or say or whatever, please shout out. Brilliant. Thanks, Ole.
Yeah. Weird situation, me asking you a question now. I'm glad I'm working with you guys, but what would be really interesting to me right now is you speak about how you felt in your various positions as bartenders, as people in the hospitality business, but I would really like to know what is the perspective on racism and what it does to smaller businesses that are trying to be as hospitable as possible, have the highest amount of guests coming in, feeling comfortable. This is basically why I think there must be a difference between journalists against racism and gastronomy against racism. So what's the specifics of that, and can we as professionals do something to understand better what implications it might have for others in this business? Any of you?
Experience I did at the World Class Global Finals in Miami 2016 was we had a Turkish finalist and he couldn't go to the States because they didn't give him a visa to come and compete. And this was actually a very sad thing because there's a bartender who want to compete at the highest level with other people from all over the country. I think we had 50 people competing on the global finals at World Class, and just this one guy couldn't come because of political issues that country has each other. So this gives you actually a very good perspective that a lot of things that happens are politically, but not between the people. So we have to stop this thing with judging on this high level. Like they make their politics, but we have each other know the problem. So this is actually where the bartender business gets very close to politics. And it was actually a very sad thing, and I think they used to invite Yunus for this year to I think Mexico City. He was a visitor, but this was actually very sad.
And to answer real quick why there are different companies or projects like Journalism Against Racism, Wine Against Racism, and it's good because we are all sitting in the same boat, we all have the same idea, and it's good that we have so many different groups of that because for the different communities, for us it's the hospitality, it's the bartending, we are all expert in our respected fields, so we have a community behind us that listens to us. So why should I listen to a journalist, to a chef or something like that? We're just trying to find the shortest way to the community itself to answer that, but we all have the same questions and all have the same answers. So in these days, doesn't matter how small your business is, if you're part of it, thank you very much.
There was another question over there.
Hello, Tom. Yeah. Great chat, everyone. Thank you very much. There's been a lot of talk about your ideas on racism coming from a guest perspective, from the outside of the industry. Do you think there's enough transparency talking about racism within the industry? And is that something we should touch on more?
There's an interesting thing, by the way. That's good also.
It's funny. So within our industry, yeah, it's funny you should say that because I was having a conversation recently. I can't remember which country I was in. It gets blurred. But I was judging a final of a cocktail competition, and I looked around at the table at the judges, and I said, "Wow, it's a really diverse crowd here. We got a couple people that are black, we've got a couple of people that are Asian, we've got some women, we've got a previous winner that was of mixed race heritage. I said, good. I took a photo and stuck it online and said, oh, diversity. And then I looked at another cocktail competition, one that you just mentioned, and I looked at what the judges and I said, wait a minute, this doesn't look very diverse. And these are supposed to be the leaders of our industry. These are supposed to be working out, diversity should be working its way down. Because in society, that's what has to happen. In society, if you look at any industry around, especially in the Western society, diversity has to work its way down because it's not diverse at the highest level as such. So in answer to this question, I think we have to do more, our industry has to do more to help us at the lower level to actually embrace different cultures. Because for me, if your company is a diverse company, you have an advantage. It means you can reach out to a wider audience. If your company is based on just one demographic, that is going to be your strength. That's that one demographic. There's a statistic in America, the top 500 companies are run by 70% middle-aged white men. And the country is 30% middle-aged white men. So something is wrong there with that. And I see that within our industry as well. That's something that needs to change with our industry. There has to be more diversity at the top level working its way down.
When I just can add something to that, so before I started my bartending career, I was studying to become a sports teacher, sports and labor science. And in this industry specifically, I received way more racist impact or expressions than I received within this hospitality. I mean, for example, look around, I see that guy open a bar. I saw the guys from Le Syndicat Paris, also colored bar owner. I saw Sly from Trailer Happiness. And I love the diversity that we provided here already with, which is getting better and better. Not only of colored people, I talk also about female bartenders who become bar owners and also get respected, get awards for their doing, brand people who also been of other genders and so on. And I think we're getting there, but like you said, it's a long way to make that progress. It's steps. We're getting there.
It's perhaps something as well that we can take responsibility if we are sensitive about this, not only, of course, to the customer side, but also in our teams and in our companies, perhaps to see if this is just without any kind of intolerance.
I just want to address something quickly about the previous question. How I just recently became a business owner, and how racism in our industry or in our bars or whatever affects you as a business owner. From my point of view, which is something I used to not care about, but now that I am running my own business, I look at a lot more, is that we're in a country where we don't speak the language yet. We've just moved there. Well, we just recently moved there. And we're in Spain, and Spain is a country that I think a lot like France or Germany, they're very much into speaking their own language, whereas before, when I've lived in Scandinavia or whatever, they have a very easy time with speaking English. And it has caused us to get a couple of customers in and then give us massive complaints that we don't speak Spanish and maybe not come back. And of course, that causes us to maybe not have the same crowd or the same kind of customers, but also it has changed as our bar has become filled nowadays with a lot more of a diverse crowd from the States, from Sweden, from Australia, from Portugal, from France. But yeah, so for us, we're definitely seeing a change in that sense that we're definitely seeing a change of clientele because we're in a position where we are very new to the country and we don't yet speak the language. So yeah.
So I think when there are no more questions or anything, then we have one more question. Cool.
I feel like this discussion has been really great, but there's sort of been talk of it as like somebody who's clearly racist, right? Like somebody walking in your bar in a Nazi shirt, and we haven't really addressed the biggest form of racism, which is the gray area, which is that the person says, I'm not racist, my best friend is black, and then goes and tells a offensive joke. So how do we mitigate that kind of broader issue, which is the kind of more subtle things that are helping kind of perpetuating and empowering the people that are not so subtle?
No, what you've just highlighted there is basically endemic of society in general. The most dangerous form of racism is the one that's either inherent, the one where people deny, like that same thing. Oh, I can't be racist. My friend's black. Or I can't be against Muslims because my next door neighbor is Muslim. It's just those guys I don't like to come over here, or it's those black people I don't like. That is the worst form, as such, when you deny that you are in that situation. But steps like this, having this conversation here, opens doors. It starts the conversation, and that's what we need more of. It's making sure that people like that, because I've got friends who've said racist things to me because they were my friends. And I'm like, well, listen to what you've said to me, because we're mates, I'm going to educate you on this. Because I don't want you to say it to someone that you don't know, and they might punch you in your face as such. But the reason why they've done that is from a place of comfort, because they know me as such. But you're right, that needs to be eradicated out of our conversation as such. So it is about education. It's trying to make sure that people understand that, yeah, what they say might be comfortable to them in that situation there, but it's offensive to other people. We're in a society now where anything can offend as such, so we have to be careful what we say as such. But there are certain things that people do say that can be just taken out of their conversation completely as such. But that is endemic of society in general. So within our industry, that's something we can do. If I was working with a bar and I made a joke against Muslims and we were there, I'd expect you to say, Ian, I mean, that's not really funny and that type of stuff. And I'm like, oh, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't be saying that. I just said it because I've known you for a long time. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Shouldn't happen. Because I might say that in another conversation to someone else who's going to be offended that I don't know, because it becomes comfortable to me. We have to become uncomfortable. I love a saying where someone says that at the moment, a lot of people are colorblind. And we shouldn't be colorblind, we should be color brave. Yeah? We shouldn't be comfortable with certain things that is uncomfortable to other people. So we need to be uncomfortable with ourselves, but not saying those things that are detrimental to other people. That's the real key. Once we do that, that's when the world becomes a better place.
And it brings us back to civil courage. And in the end, it brings us back to civil courage to position ourselves in a way and to stand up and try to educate people as well. With these talks, perhaps, or whatever, in smaller circles as well, just to talk about these things. I think that's the only way if you want to do it with love, because going against something is always...
And I think there again, having a sign out on your door, entering the place, I think this is a nice sign, and then it's easy to say, hey, listen, buddy, we are against racism. What you just said is kind of racist, huh?
Yeah.
So maybe you lower your tone a little.
So guys, get a sticker at our stand. I think we have to finish now. Huh?
Yeah, just wanted to add one last thing, sorry.
No, of course.
Super quick, because at the end, I mean, all the impressions we have, all the ideas we have, we're doing it actually. And I think it's super important that we just get a feeling we're not alone, we're doing it together, because each of us is working for diversity, is working for gender equality, is working for that we get respected for the work we are doing. Like I said, we should, what Dennis is doing here with this project is really that we know we're not alone, we're doing it all together, and to deliver to our guests with the same feeling, same impression, right? And I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Get a sticker, come to the stand, A14 Hall 1. Thank you for listening. Cheers.